The cowboy thought the beautiful Apache only wanted shelter for one night, but it wasn't that simple. His small wooden house stood a little apart from the main trail, surrounded by open ground and a few tired trees. Every morning, he woke before the sun, worked until his hands ached, and returned home with only the sound of insects and the fading light to keep him company. He had chosen this life after many disappointments. Out here, things were simple, hard, yes, but honest. He did not expect visitors. People rarely came this way unless they were lost or desperate. That evening was no different from any other. The sky was turning orange and purple, and the air carried a warning of cold night wind. The cowboy finished securing the animals and was about to step inside when he noticed movement near the fence. At first, he thought it was an animal. Then he saw a figure standing still, not moving closer, not running away. A woman. She stood a few steps beyond the fence, her hands relaxed at her sides, her posture calm but careful. She wore simple clothing, worn from travel. Dust clung to the hem and her long dark hair was tied back loosely. Her face showed exhaustion, but her eyes were alert. She did not look frightened. She looked prepared. The cowboy froze. Visitors usually shouted or waved. She did neither. He cleared his throat and spoke first, his voice firm but not unkind. He asked what she wanted. She answered in a steady voice. She said she needed shelter for the night, just one night. She said she would leave before morning light if he wished. He studied her carefully. He had lived long enough to know when someone was hiding something, but he also knew the difference between danger and pain. This woman carried pain. Deep, quiet pain. He hesitated. Letting a stranger stay was risky. Letting an Apache woman stay could bring trouble if anyone found out. The land held old tensions, old fears that never fully disappeared. He knew all of this. Still, the sun was sinking fast and the night would be cold. He nodded once and told her she could stay. One night only. Relief crossed her face, brief but genuine. She thanked him, not with many words but with a respectful nod. She followed him at a careful distance, never stepping too close, never acting as if she expected more than what was offered. Inside, the house was simple. One table, 2 chairs, a small cooking area, and a single bedroom. He offered her a blanket and showed her a place near the fire. She accepted quietly. She did not ask questions. She did not look around with curiosity. It was as if she wanted to take up as little space as possible. As the fire crackled, silence filled the room. It was not uncomfortable, just heavy. The cowboy noticed her hands. They were strong, marked by work and travel. She had not lived an easy life. He prepared a simple meal and offered her a portion. She hesitated before accepting, then thanked him again. They ate slowly. He did not ask her name. She did not offer it. Later, as the fire burned lower, she spoke again. She said she would leave early before causing any trouble. He told her she could rest and leave when she was ready. His voice was neutral, but his eyes betrayed curiosity he did not want to admit. That night, the wind howled outside. The cowboy lay awake longer than usual, listening. He was used to solitude, but now another presence filled the space. It was strange, not unpleasant, just unfamiliar. At dawn, pale light crept through the window. The cowboy rose quietly and stepped outside. The land was still, painted in soft colors. He expected to see the woman preparing to leave. She was still there. She stood near the fence, looking out toward the hills. When she noticed him, she turned. There was something different in her expression now, less guarded, more resolved. She walked toward him and spoke softly. She said she had nowhere safe to go yet. She asked if she could stay one more day. Just one. The cowboy felt a tightness in his chest. This was not what he had agreed to. He reminded himself of that. Still, he saw the truth in her eyes. She was not asking for comfort. She was asking for time. He told her she could stay the day, but she would need to leave by nightfall. She agreed without argument. As the day passed, she helped without being asked. She carried water, prepared food, and worked with steady focus. She did not complain, even when the sun grew hot. The cowboy watched her from a distance, surprised by how naturally she fit into the rhythm of the place. They spoke little, but when they did, it felt honest. She asked about the land. He answered simply. He asked nothing in return. By late afternoon, he realized something unsettled him. He did not want her to leave. That thought startled him. He pushed it aside. This was not his way. People passed through. They always had. As the sun lowered again, she approached him. She said she would leave now as promised. She thanked him for his kindness. Her voice did not shake, but her hands tightened slightly. The cowboy looked at the fading light, then back at her. He knew that once she walked away, she would disappear into the land, and whatever she was running from would follow. He surprised himself by asking where she planned to go. She answered honestly. She did not know. Silence fell between them. The decision hung heavy in the air. Finally, he spoke. He told her she could stay another night. No promises beyond that, no questions, just shelter. Her eyes widened slightly. Then she nodded, gratitude shining through her calm exterior. She said she would not forget his kindness. As night fell again, the cowboy sat by the fire, staring into the flames. He had believed she only wanted shelter for one night, but now he understood the truth. This was not simple at all. Morning came slowly, wrapped in soft light and cool air. The cowboy woke before the sun, as he always did, but this time he paused before getting out of bed. He listened. The house was quiet, yet not empty. He could feel another presence, steady and calm, like a low fire that did not ask for attention. He stepped outside to begin his routine. The sky was pale blue, and the land smelled of dust and grass. As he worked, he noticed movement near the water pump. The woman was already awake. She moved with care, not rushing, not hesitating. She filled a bucket, carried it with steady hands, and set it down near the animals. He watched from a distance. She had not been asked to help. She simply did. It was clear she did not want to be a burden. When he approached, she greeted him with a small nod. No big words, no forced smile, just quiet respect. He nodded back. They shared a simple breakfast. The food was plain, but it was warm. They sat across from each other at the table. The silence between them was no longer heavy. It felt natural, like two people sharing the same quiet understanding. He noticed she ate slowly, as if she had learned long ago not to expect much. After breakfast, he told her what work needed to be done that day. He did not order her. He simply spoke as if she were already part of the place. She listened carefully and followed along. They worked side by side, though not too close. She carried tools, fed the animals, and swept the small porch. She did everything with purpose. When the sun rose higher, the heat followed, but she did not slow down. The cowboy noticed how she wiped sweat from her brow and kept going, her face calm but determined. By midday, he offered her water and rest. She accepted both, sitting in the shade near the house. For a while, they said nothing. The wind passed through the grass, carrying distant sounds of the open land. Finally, she spoke. She thanked him again for letting her stay. She said she did not take his kindness lightly. Her voice was steady, but there was something beneath it, something careful. He told her she did not owe him anything. His words surprised even himself. She looked at him then, really looked at him. Her eyes held questions she did not ask. Instead, she looked away and nodded. As the afternoon wore on, the cowboy felt a strange shift inside himself. He had lived alone for so long that he had forgotten what it felt like to share space. Her presence did not disturb his routine. Instead, it softened it. The house felt warmer. The land felt less empty. Later, while repairing a fence, he noticed her watching the horizon. Her gaze was fixed on the distant hills, as if she expected something to appear. He followed her eyes but saw nothing. He asked if she was waiting for someone. She shook her head. She said she was making sure no one was following. He did not press further. He knew better than to force answers. Still, concern settled quietly in his chest. As evening approached, a distant sound reached them, voices carried by the wind. The cowboy stiffened. He recognized the sound of riders on the trail, not close but close enough to be heard. The woman noticed his reaction. Her body tensed and her hand curled slightly at her side. She stepped back, ready to move. He told her to stay calm. He said they were probably just passing through. But as the voices grew louder, he felt uneasy. He knew how quickly rumors spread in these parts. An Apache woman staying at a ranch could bring trouble. The riders passed without stopping. Their laughter faded into the distance. Only then did the cowboy breathe freely again. The woman spoke softly. She said she did not want to cause him problems. She said she would leave before nightfall, as promised. The words hit him harder than he expected. He looked at her and realized he had grown used to her being there. The thought of her leaving felt wrong, though he could not explain why. He told her she could stay another day if she needed. He said it slowly, carefully, as if testing the words. She hesitated. For the first time, uncertainty crossed her face. She asked if he was sure. He said yes. That night they sat by the fire again. The flames flickered, casting shadows on the walls. The cowboy asked her name. She told him. He shared his own. It was a small exchange, but it felt important. Names carried weight. Names meant recognition. She spoke a little about her journey, not details, just fragments. She said she had walked far. She said she had learned to trust signs more than people. She said she was tired of running, but stopping was dangerous. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, he said nothing for a long moment. Then he told her she was safe here for now. She looked at him, searching his face. She seemed to be deciding whether to believe him. Finally, she nodded. When night settled in, the cowboy lay awake again. He listened to the wind, but his thoughts were elsewhere. He wondered what she had lost. He wondered what she feared. He wondered why her presence mattered so much. In the early hours, he heard a soft sound, movement near the door. He rose quietly and stepped into the main room. She stood there, holding her blanket, her face tense. She said she had a bad dream. She apologized for disturbing him. He told her it was fine. He offered her a seat near the fire until she felt calm. They sat in silence, the fire glowing low. After a while, her breathing slowed. She thanked him again, her voice softer than before. As dawn approached, the cowboy realized something had changed. What had begun as one night of shelter had grown into something deeper, something neither of them had planned. He knew now that this was not temporary, and he also knew that whatever came next would not be easy. The third day began with a heavy stillness, as if the land itself was holding its breath. The cowboy woke early, but this time sleep had not rested him. His thoughts had followed him through the night, turning slowly, refusing to settle. When he stepped outside, the air felt different, quiet, yet watchful. The woman was already awake. She stood near the edge of the land, facing the rising sun. Her posture was straight, but there was tension in her shoulders. It was the stance of someone who had learned to stay ready, even during calm moments. They shared breakfast without many words. The silence between them was no longer empty, but it was not light either. Something waited beneath it. As the morning passed, the cowboy noticed small changes in her. She paused often, listening to sounds he barely registered. Her eyes moved constantly, scanning the open ground, the trail, the distant hills. She worked as before, steady and helpful, but her focus was divided. Finally, he asked what she was afraid of. She did not answer right away. She set down the tool she was holding and took a slow breath. When she spoke, her voice was quiet but clear. She said fear had followed her for a long time. It had many shapes. Some had names, some did not. She said she had not planned to stay this long. She had believed she would rest one night, then move on before anyone noticed. But she admitted she was tired, not just in her body but in her spirit. She said running had taken everything from her. The cowboy listened carefully. He did not interrupt. He did not hurry her. She told him she had once belonged to a small group that lived peacefully, keeping to themselves. Over time, that peace was broken. People came who wanted control, who wanted land, who did not care who stood in the way. She said she lost people she loved. She said she learned that staying visible was dangerous. Her words were simple, but they carried weight. The cowboy felt anger rise in him, slow and deep. He had seen unfairness before, but hearing it spoken so plainly made it harder to ignore. She said she did not want pity. She said she only wanted time to think, time to decide where to go next. She had come to his land because it was quiet, because it felt forgotten by the world. He told her this place might be forgotten, but it was not empty. He told her she did not have to decide anything today. Later that day, someone came down the trail. The cowboy noticed the dust first, then the sound of hooves. He felt his body tense before his mind caught up. Visitors were rare. Unexpected ones were worse. The woman saw it too. She stepped back instinctively, her face tightening. She moved toward the house, ready to disappear inside if needed. Two men rode closer and stopped near the fence. They looked around openly, their eyes lingering too long on the land, the house, the woman. One of them spoke, asking if everything was fine. His tone was polite, but something beneath it felt sharp. The cowboy stepped forward. He answered calmly. He said everything was fine and asked what they wanted. They said they were just passing through, checking on nearby land. One of them glanced again at the woman and asked who she was. The cowboy felt a line inside him harden. He said she was his guest. The word surprised even him. The men exchanged looks. They nodded and said nothing more. After a moment, they rode on. When they were gone, silence returned, but it was no longer peaceful. The woman spoke first. She said this was exactly why she needed to leave. She said people noticed too easily. She said trouble followed her like a shadow. The cowboy told her trouble came whether one invited it or not. He said running forever was not living. She looked at him with a mixture of gratitude and sadness. She said he did not understand what it meant to be seen as a problem just for existing. He admitted she was right. He could not fully understand, but he could choose how he acted now. That evening, tension hung thick in the air. The woman packed her few belongings and placed them by the door. She said she would leave at first light. The cowboy watched silently. Every movement she made felt final. He wanted to argue, but he did not know what to say. After sunset, they sat by the fire. The flames flickered softly, casting long shadows. She spoke again, her voice low. She said staying had reminded her of something she thought she had lost, the feeling of safety, even if brief. He told her she had reminded him of something too. That life was not meant to be endured alone. The words surprised them both. Later, when the fire burned low, she stood and faced him. She thanked him, not just for shelter but for respect. She said she would remember him wherever she went. Something inside the cowboy broke open then. He told her she did not have to leave tomorrow. He said he knew it was risky. He said he did not have all the answers, but he said he did not want her to face the world alone again if she did not have to. She stared at him, searching for doubt, for regret. She found none. Tears filled her eyes, but she did not let them fall. She said trust was dangerous. She said choosing to stay might cost them both. He nodded. He said some things were worth the cost. The night deepened around them. Outside, the land remained quiet, but something had shifted. A line had been crossed, not of place, but of choice. Neither of them knew what the future held, but they both understood now that this was no longer about shelter. It was about standing still when running felt easier. And once that choice was made, nothing could return to how it was before. The fourth day began with uneasy quiet. The sky was clear, but the air felt tight, as if the land itself sensed that something was about to change. The woman did not leave at dawn, even though she had said she would. Instead, she stood outside the house, watching the horizon with careful eyes. The cowboy noticed this as soon as he stepped out. They did not speak right away. Both of them were thinking about the same thing, the choice they had made the night before. It was no longer simple. Letting her stay meant more than kindness now. It meant standing against what others might say or do. The cowboy began his morning work, and she followed, helping as she always did. But today, every sound felt louder. Every distant movement caught their attention. The comfort that had slowly grown between them was now mixed with caution. Later in the morning, the cowboy noticed something near the trail, fresh marks in the dirt. Horses had passed through recently, more than two this time. His jaw tightened as he studied the ground. The woman saw his expression and understood. She said quietly that this was what she feared. She said when people became curious, they rarely stopped at curiosity. He told her they would handle it if something happened. The words came out steady, but inside he felt the weight of them. He had never been one to look for trouble, but he was no longer willing to step aside either. As the sun climbed higher, the sound of riders returned. This time, they did not pass by. 3 men approached the fence and stopped. Their faces were serious, their eyes sharp. They looked at the land, the house, and then at the woman. One of them spoke, asking questions that sounded polite but carried warning underneath. They asked how long she had been there. They asked where she came from. They asked why she was staying. The cowboy stepped forward again, placing himself slightly in front of her. He said she was under his roof, and that was all anyone needed to know. His voice was calm but firm. The men did not like that answer. One of them said people were talking. He said it was not wise to invite attention. He said the land was safer when things stayed as they were. The cowboy replied that his land was his responsibility. He said he had done nothing wrong. The tension stretched between them like a pulled rope. For a moment, it seemed as though words might turn into something worse. The woman held her breath, ready to speak, ready to step away if it would protect him. Then, after a long pause, the men backed off. They warned him to be careful and rode away, leaving silence behind. When they were gone, the woman felt her strength fade. She sat down slowly, her hands shaking. She said this was her fault. She said staying had already brought him trouble. He knelt in front of her and told her to look at him. He said he made his own choices. He said protecting someone did not make life smaller, it made it honest. She looked at him then, really looked at him, and something changed. The walls she had built for years cracked slightly. She said she had spent so long believing she was alone that she forgot what it felt like to be defended. That afternoon, she tried to pack again. Not because she wanted to leave, but because fear told her it was safer. The cowboy watched quietly, then told her to stop. He said running would not erase danger. He said staying meant facing it together. She asked him why he was willing to risk so much. He thought for a long moment before answering. He said loneliness had been easier than hope. But now that hope had returned, he could not pretend it did not matter. Her eyes filled, but this time tears fell freely. She admitted she was afraid, not just of danger, but of belonging again. She said losing people once had taught her not to hold on too tightly. He told her holding on was always a risk, but it was also the only way anything meaningful grew. As night came, they prepared the house together. Simple things, closing shutters, securing doors, but each action felt like a promise. They were no longer pretending this was temporary. By the fire, they talked quietly. She shared more of her past, not every detail, but enough for him to understand the depth of her loss. He shared his own disappointments, the reasons he had chosen isolation over connection. They realized they were not so different. Both had been shaped by silence. Both had learned to survive by standing alone. When the fire burned low, she asked him one final question. She asked if he would regret this choice when things became harder. He answered without hesitation. He said regret came from inaction, not courage. Outside, the night was calm, but the world beyond the land was not. Still, inside that small house, something steady had formed. Not certainty, not safety, commitment. They went to rest knowing that tomorrow might bring more challenges. But for the first time, neither felt the need to face the unknown alone. The choice had been made, and whatever came next, it would change both of their lives forever. The final days began quietly, as if the land itself had decided to give them space. The morning sun rose gently, casting long shadows across the open ground. The cowboy stepped outside and breathed in the cool air. For the first time in many years, he did not feel alone when he did so. The woman joined him soon after. She stood beside him, not behind, not distant. There was a calm strength in her posture now. Fear had not vanished, but it no longer ruled her. She had chosen to stay, and that choice gave her steadiness. They worked together that day as if they had always done so. The rhythm felt natural. She knew where things were without asking. He anticipated her movements without thinking. Small exchanges, a glance, a nod, a quiet word carried meaning. The ranch no longer felt like a place of waiting. It felt alive. News did not take long to travel. Over the next few days, people passed by the land more often. Some slowed to look. Some asked careful questions. The cowboy answered simply. He did not explain more than necessary. His calm made others cautious. The woman stayed mostly near the house at first, but slowly she began to move more freely. She walked the land, learned its paths, and listened to its sounds. The land seemed to accept her just as the cowboy had. One afternoon, a storm rolled in without warning. Dark clouds gathered quickly, and the wind rose sharp and sudden. They rushed to secure what they could before the rain fell. When the storm finally broke, it came hard and fast. Inside the house, they waited it out together. Rain drummed against the roof, steady and loud. The woman sat near the window, watching water race down the glass. She said storms used to frighten her. They made her feel small and exposed. The cowboy told her storms passed just like everything else. He said the land always recovered. She smiled faintly and said maybe people could too. That night the rain softened into a gentle sound. The world felt washed clean. In the quiet that followed, the woman spoke of the future. Not with certainty, but with openness. She said she did not know what her life would look like from now on. She said she only knew she did not want to keep running. He told her the land could grow with them slowly. He said nothing had to be decided all at once. Days turned into weeks. Routine settled in. Trust deepened. The woman laughed more easily now. The sound surprised them both when it happened the first time. It was quiet but real. There were moments of fear too. When riders passed too close, when unfamiliar voices carried on the wind, but each time they faced it together. The fear did not disappear, but it no longer felt overwhelming. One evening, as the sun dipped low, the woman stood near the fence, watching the horizon. The cowboy joined her. She told him she used to look at the land only to see escape routes. Now she saw possibility. He said he used to see the land as a shield. Now he saw it as a home. They stood in silence, side by side. The sky glowed in soft colors, and the day came to a peaceful end. Later that night, she thanked him again, not for shelter this time, but for choice. She said being allowed to choose had changed everything. He told her she had changed his life too. He said he had forgotten how much strength came from sharing the weight of living. The story did not end with grand promises or easy peace. Life on the land remained hard. The world beyond remained uncertain. But something important had been built, slowly, honestly, and with care. The cowboy had once believed the woman only wanted shelter for one night. He had been wrong. What she needed was space to breathe, time to heal, and someone willing to stand beside her. What he needed was the same. And in finding it together, they learned that some connections are not planned, not simple, and not temporary. They are chosen, and once chosen, they shape everything that comes after.